We are back on Morning Line. Thanks for joining us, talking about what will be today, day 2 of the Senate impeachment trial of President Trump, as it's just getting going after a long day yesterday. Professor John Viles with us, there you go, from MTSU. Taking your phone calls, questions, comments about what you've observed to this point, what you think, if you're even paying attention. That's why we're doing this show, to try to fill you in. And let's go to Steve next, or rather, I'm sorry, Diane. Diane, good morning. Hi, Diane.
Yes. Good morning. How are you, Nick?
Good. Hi.
That's good. First of all, I just want to say that this whole presidential ride has been a scary thing. It's like being on some roller coaster in an unknown country made out of wood that you know absolutely nothing about. We should have known something was wrong when he first came through the door and refused to give up his income tax information. That should have been a red flag right there. In other words, you're telling the American people, you're finna get ready to play this any way that you want to play this out on the playground. But here's my thing. I think that this whole thing is set up. I think that Trump wanted this to happen this way to keep our eyes off of what really happened between him, his son-in-law, and Russia. Because if you notice, nobody's really speaking on that anymore. Russia's like sitting behind a closed door, and everybody's talking about that important phone call. Okay, we know the man made the phone call. That's proof out in the pudding, okay? They've already given us the information concerning the phone call. Whether we want to be good enough citizens here in the United States to pay attention to what's going on around us, that's totally up to us. But I ask the people of America, pay attention to your senators and how they are carrying out this impeachment. See, I never considered myself a Democrat or a Republican. I vote for who I want to vote for. Who's sounding good to me? Who's sounding like they want to do something that's going to benefit my world?
Yeah, you vote the person, and yeah, a lot of people will be watching. I mean, is it true though? I mean, whether it's Democrat or Republican, it's not about Donald Trump, even though I'm sure there's some that really do like him. But I get the sense that there are a lot of Republicans that just assume he wouldn't be the president. But he's the Republican president, and they're going to back the Republican president, whoever it may be, come hell or high water.
I think a lot of them like his policies. They don't necessarily like his style. I actually wrote an editorial a couple weeks ago saying, and I got some criticism for it, but saying, you know, if Trump weren't there and Pence were, you'd have somebody who looked much more presidential and be carrying out the same policies, maybe without some of the baggage.
Maybe similar policies.
Yeah. But one thing that Diane said that I think is important is, I think one of the reasons that people think those who think this is a serious offense think it is so, is it came so quickly after the Mueller investigation. Mueller did not really exonerate the president. Mueller said, we don't have enough evidence here right now to, we can't indict a sitting president. If I could tell you that I could exonerate him, I would do it, but I can't tell you that. And this event then occurs almost the very next day afterward. And I think a lot of people are afraid that if you keep sending the message that you can do whatever you want and get by with it, executive privilege or otherwise, that we're sort of on a slippery slope. And I think that's what Diane's pointing to.
Yeah. Now, I do think that this is not something that the president wanted to have happen.
I don't think so
can tell
either.
you this.
I think he's very embarrassed by it.
Yeah, I think he was very upset at being impeached, because now he is part of a very, very exclusive club of impeached presidents, which is not anything to be proud of.
No.
And so I guarantee you he didn't like that, even though I think he probably knows, along with everyone else, that the chances of him being removed by the Senate are slim and none.
Right.
Slim and none, barring anything very surprising coming up. I think we have Douglas maybe with a follow-up. Douglas, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Hey, go ahead, Douglas.
Okay. I just have another comment that I think that we all may need to take a step back and focus on. We have our young people in this world that are looking at this, and we often ask them to look up to certain people. And the most trusted people that take an oath, whatever your position may be, when you step into the arena of saying that I've got the public at large best interest at hand, and you put your hand on the Bible and take an oath, we have to make sure that our young people, our future generation, are looking at that and seeing us at our best. And so when we're asking them to be truthful, and then they're looking at us saying us not be truthful, this thing is just going to keep going around and around in a circle. At some point, we have to be able to say, if there's enough evidence, whether you're a CEO of a private company, or if you are a sworn person for a public office, at some point we have to be able to say, we can't go around and around in a circle. Where do we get to the truth? And let's do it expeditiously and do it fairly for all parties involved, because we have our youth and people that are watching this, and we need to make sure that we're not divided. That's the key thing that we're missing.
I hear you. I mean, I think most people would agree with that.
Well, this is sort of a double whammy, because when you take the office of senator or representative, you're taking an oath to uphold the Constitution, and then when in the Senate you're taking another oath to act impartially. And these are the two actually parts of the Constitution that we sort of overlook, where even if you don't say "so help me God," when you take an oath, you're effectively saying in front of God and everyone else, this is what I'm going to do. And I think people do need to be true to their convictions.
Yeah, and I'll say this: they do those annual polls of the most respected men or women in the country, and every year the president always ranks at near the very top, and this president has as well. Again, just so. Some people say he's one of the most admired men in America. It depends on who you talk to, but his poll numbers are up there, as it is with every president. They're always mentioned in that line. So let's go next to Chad. Chad, good morning. Hi, Chad.
Hey, good morning.
Good morning, Chad. What's on your mind?
Well, I'm curious to know that how much longer is this nonsense going to go on? I mean, ever since President became president, it's been one thing to the next thing to the next thing to the next thing, and I'm curious to see what your opinion is on if he isn't found impeached, what will be the next step that the Democrats try to do to continually degrade and try to stop him. And he's over doing work. He's been doing work. He's been doing great things. And what have the Democrats done since he became elected to help us, United States citizens?
Okay, well, I mean, will there be something more? I mean, obviously, when this impeachment thing wraps up, the next thing really on the horizon, of course, is going to be the presidential race. And the question will be, will Democrats defeat him, whoever that candidate is, come that? But there'll be something else, I'm sure.
Let me make a point, if I can, off what Chad has said. There has been, at least since Clinton and maybe since Nixon, impeachment has been sort of politically weaponized.
Yep.
But what's going on with Trump is not unique. People were questioning Obama's citizenship up through his 5th and 6th year in office, and the person who was doing it the most was the person who's being impeached right now.
Right.
Whitewater investigation, preceded by years the Lewinsky indictment of Clinton. So Trump is not being uniquely picked on. Now, there are people who are using the process quite apart from whether they're high crimes or misdemeanors or bribery and treason just to get at political opponents. But this is certainly not unique to this president.
I agree, and I would say to Chad that what is unique with this president, I think, is that he is more active in social media than ever before, and I think oftentimes that is a big plus for him. I think sometimes some of the things he tweets out and sends out are a detriment to him, but it's just more public. We live in a time now where, as opposed to some of these other presidents, it's just everywhere, and so it may seem more, but you're correct. And Chad, you've got to go back and remember that the same thing was happening with Obama to a degree. I mean, in a different way, but and before him to Clinton. So it's funny, people have short memories, or it's partisanship as it goes through, and you just think my candidate's the only one getting slammed. But if you think back, you're correct. It's happened every step of the way. It's the nature of being president. You're going to get slammed from one side or the other, Chad.
And one difference is, if Trump would even say, in retrospect, I don't think this is a serious offense. I think this is a serious offense. And I think people would say, well, why didn't you do anything? And I think the answer is, because he was trying to protect himself. And if Trump would even say, in retrospect, if Trump would even say, in retrospect, it may have sounded more like I was interested in my political career than I was in what was going on in Ukraine. But I'm really concerned about if he just would concede a little bit. You know, Clinton conceded. It took him a while from I did not have sex with this woman to, you know, yes, I did something that was wrong. But a little bit of contrition might have ended this a lot sooner.
Perhaps so. But if we've learned anything about this president,
he doesn't back off.
Oh, he will not back off, which I think is something perhaps to be admired, but will never, ever admit that he's wrong. And no one's right 100% of the time. Period. We'll take a break. We'll be back with more of your calls right after this.